Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
And start using the chat GPT application, right? Whenever you are having any question or you are getting any error, just try to start using the chat GPT. That will definitely help you with a more accurate results, guys. Okay. Well, I hope you are now comfortable in creating EC2 instances and installing the Apache web server there and bring up one simple web application and access the web application, right, from the browser using the IP address, right? Of course, you can't test this out from the domain name because to do that, you would need a domain has to be purchased, right? But that is fine. We already know how the domain works, right? So that's okay. But as of now, we can just try the practicing to access it using the IP address. That should be enough. But if you are really good to do all of these exercises, yes, I advise you go and purchase a simple domain as well. The domain is like nowadays is very cheap, right? And can do the practicing as well with your own domain names, guys. Okay. So that's a quick summary that what we have been done, right? So now we'll continue our session and we'll talk more, guys. And I hope you are able to hear me and able to see my screen because I don't see any active participation from the chat window, right? So now I really get a doubt. Are you able to hear me, guys? Yeah, thank you. So please, or else how do I know that you're really there to and following me, right? So thanks for the acknowledgement or the chat window, right? So let me go to this, right? So in my AWS account, I have one EC2 instance, guys, and let me try to logging into this EC2 instance. Okay, I'll take this IP address. Okay, so this IP address is already added in the Route 53 as well to have the DNS record, guys. Just to show you that, let's say if I go to the Route 53 service, just to show you that, I think the website should work now, right? So let's say www.edshopper.com. You see, like we configured this website yesterday, right? It is working fine. Okay, so the record is already added in the Route 53. I'm just going there to show you the record that is created in the hosted zone called edshopper.com, and here you can see that the A record is already created and the corresponding IP is there. So far so good, and I'm able to access the web app using the domain name as well, right? Now let me logging into this instance from SSH client. Okay, so all what I need to do is take the IP address. I'll just go to my SSH client and just give the IP address there, and I'm sending the request on port number 22, and let me try to log in. And you see that the login is not happening, guys. Okay, so my server is not responding to me for my login request, correct? At the same time, if I try to access my application, right, the application is working. You got me? What I'm trying to, right? So what could be the reason, guys? The possible guess, right? Because the website is working fine without having any issue. Even this website is serving by the same EC2 instance, but my login is not working. right? So that means when the EC2 instance is up and running, right, is not mean that everything is working, right? In the EC2 instance, there are multiple services that are running. Each service uh, is binded on a specific port number. So when you are utilizing the services, you need to send the request to the specific port number and get the required service, right? So here I'm trying to access the SSSD service on port number 22 and somehow it is not working. But here from the browser, I'm sending the request on port number 80 to the HTTP service. That service, that port number might be working fine and I'm able to get the response there, right? Hope you get me there, right? So that means there are multiple services, multiple port numbers in the server, and we need to see which port number that you are sending the request and which is not working, something like that. Anyway, at this time, my party is not working. I'm not able to log in, right? Definitely the SSSD service related issues are there, correct? So how do you start troubleshooting that, guys? Like it's not working, but where do you get start with? How to, right, check that why it is not working? You got me what I'm trying to, right? Of course, since this is a simple problem, I can directly go to EC2 server, then go to security group, look for the ports, that's fine. But when you go deeper and deeper, further advanced concepts, right, there will be multiple things in our plate, right? So to do or to start with the troubleshooting, right, you take your command line. It could be in your laptop or it could be somewhere else, not a problem. Wherever is fine. Wherever you have the command line facility, you take that, right? So here I'm taking my bash terminal in my Windows. I have installed the bash terminal in the Windows system as well, and it is working fine, right? So the first command that I wanted to call out is the ping command. Ping and specify the IP address, guys, and hit enter, right? And just do a control C, right? So the ping is the network command which will tell you that the the network is established or not to this particular server. First of all, what does it mean by the network is established? First of all, whatever you are sending, that request is going to server or not. That is what is telling by the ping command. The ping command usually sending some heartbeat packet, heartbeat packet to the server, and it will wait for the response. If it get the response from the server, that means look like the server is reachable. You see, the ping command has sent some 4 packets and it is receiving the acknowledgement for all the 4 requests. So there is no loss. That means the server is properly reachable for me. When the ping command is successful, is mean that the server is working for everyone, for every service? No, right? Because the ping command is not actually validating the number 22. It is just checking whether the server is reachable or not. That's it, right? Once the server is reachable, then I need to look at whether the specific port number that I'm interested on is working or not. That is where we can use the command called telnet. Telnet is the network command which will help us to do the troubleshooting, right? So take your IP address. Again, guys, whenever your IP is already added in the Route 53 to have a DNS resolution, right? You can use the name everywhere. Let's say here www.edshopper.com. Not only just to browse the website in the browser, no, it can be used anywhere. Wherever you are using the name will be resoluted it into the IP address, right? Even I can use this for ping command as well, right? You see now, I'm actually pinging this particular name. The name is resoluted into a IP address, then it is started off pinging that particular IP. Are we good with this, right? So if you wanted to know the particular port is reachable or not, you need to run the command called telnet, then give your name or IP, whatever you prefer. Then let's say I want to know if this server is able to listen on port number 80 or not, then just give the port number at end and hit enter. Look like the telnet is not installed in my, again, right? The telnet is also a kind of a package, right? A kind of application, right? So this has to be installed, then only it will work. Okay. So it is not installed in this machine. Let me copy this command. I'll show you this in my another window. Here also it's not installed, right? So let me install it here. Yum install telnet. We already know, right? Yum install command to install the packages. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to show you. So here I actually logged into the server before and it is still working, right? The telnet and the server and the port number 80. And you see now that the the port number 80 is connected. So this response is telling that this server is good to listen on port number 80. To come out from this telnet session, always you can do like control C, sorry, control C, hit enter, or you can follow this particular symbol. So either way it is fine, escape characters, right? So now let me do the same thing on port number 22. Now you see that it is keep on trying to reach on port number 22 and it is not reachable. That's how we need to do a little troubleshooting to know what's happening. And yes, the 22 is not reachable. Now you go and check why the 22 is not reachable, right? That is where now I'll go to my server. I'll go to the security group, right? I'll go to the security group that is currently attached to the EC2 instance. Go to the inbound rule and you see here port number 80 is allowed. And you see that here there is something called ICMP. ICMP is the Internet Control Message Protocol. This is the ICMP protocol that is used by the ping command. If the ICMP is allowed in the security group, then only the ping command works or else no. Here, because the ICMP is allowed and your ping is also working. If you remove this ICMP, the ping will not work, guys. I just removed the ICMP. Now I'm adding the port number 22, allow from anywhere and save the rule. Now if I come back and run the telnet command on port number 22, right? Now you see that the 22 is reachable on the server, right? That's how it works. Now if you try the ping command on this particular server, you see now the ping is not working, guys. Why? I just have disabled the ICMP protocol from the security group and it is not working. So ping is not really a great command for us to use to know whether the server is reachable or not, because sometimes let's say the port number 22 is working, port number 80 is working, but the ping is not working. Should I consider that the server is not working? No, right? Whichever the services that I want to use, all the services are working fine. I don't worry about whether the ping is working or not. Correct, right? So most of the cases, the ping related protocols will not be allowed in the security groups, just because if it is allowed, right, whoever is doing the ping command will keep on sending some request to the server. The server will be busy to give the response back to the ping commands, so unnecessary, right? So mostly the ping will be disabled in the security group. So if your ping command is not working, do not conclude that the server is not reachable. No, sometime the ping might be disabled. That is the reason. You see here I got 100% loss, but that is still fine. My server is still working. Just because the ping is not allowed in the security group, it is not working. right? So the telnet will definitely help you to know the port reachability, guys, right? So sometimes, when you are using any name, let's say ping www dot, let's say shopper.com, right? Sometimes when you are using the name to reach the server, the name has to be resoluted into a IP, right? You see, if that resolution is not happening, you will be getting the error like this. Hey, the name that you have been supplied, this is not known, something like this. Don't worry, I wantedly given a typo here. Rather giving double P, I given a single P. Hence, it is telling that the service is not known. So whenever you are having any DNS related issues, like your name is not able to resolve into the IP, how do you troubleshoot again? Of course, I can go to the Route 53 and I can verify there whether the record is there or not. That is true. But always we need to use some commands to do some troubleshooting, guys, right? So can someone please acknowledge in the chat window that you are able to hear and able to see my screen, right? Thank you. Thank you. Now, there are some commands to troubleshoot some DNS related issues. The first command is nslookup. Specify nslookup, then the name www.edshopper.com. So if the DNS is working as expected, you will be getting this type of answer, guys. And here it is telling that, hey, this particular name is resoluted to this particular IP. So that is the confirmation that the DNS is working fine, right? And in the top, whatever you see, this is actually a local DNS server. Remember, when I was introducing the DNS concept, I said that usually, right, the request will go to the local DNS server first, right? From there, it will forward it to the actual authoritative name servers of your domain register. Hope you are following my terminology, right? So here, whatever the IP that you see, that is actually a local DNS server which is configured, and the request will go to there by default, right? This is the AWS EC2 server, right? The AWS know what will be the local DNS server. All these things are configured behind the screen, right? So to go in deeper again, how it know that this is the local DNS server IP, that it has to ask for a question, hey, what is the IP, right? So there is a file called /etc/resolve.conf, right? So here you can see /etc/resolve.conf. In this resolve.conf configuration file, already there is a entry here. The entry says that the 172.31.0.2, something like this. So this IP is called as a local DNS server, which will be giving the resolution for you. So in this EC2 server, whenever you are looking for a name to IP conversion, always the request will come to this IP, right? How it know? Basically, like if you are using this ping and the name, right? It will go to the etcresolve.conf file. It will see what is the local DNS server IP. Then it will send the request to this IP. If this IP has the answer, it will give you. If not, it will ask the authoritative name server, get the response, and give it back to you. Even if the authoritative name server of your domain register does not have the information, obviously it can't help you much, right? So that is what we have seen in a previous lecture, right? In terms of understanding what is the local DNS server and what is the authoritative name server as well in this presentation, correct? So here, whatever you see the the DNS server, right? This is the local DNS server, which usually be managed by your internet service providers. and then it takes care of to go to your authoritative name servers if it does not have an answer with that. Good. The other command that is a bit important is dig command. Dig and specify the domain name, right? The same thing, but it will give you like more information, right? The dig command will tell that, hey, the question that you have been asked is, what is the IP of this name? The answer is here, right? So this particular name is resoluted to this particular IP, which is a record. To get the resolution total, it took this much of time. So that much. And this is the DNS server that is involved here, like from which DNS server I got the response, you got the DNS server IP. So that's how like you'll get more information using the dig command, guys. So these commands will help you to see if the resolution is happening or not. Let me clear the screen. Right. So now what I do is I'll go and create one more EC2 server. Currently I have one server. Let me create a one more EC2 server. I'll just go to launch instances. Let's say this is a test EC2 server. I'm using the existing security group. Launch a instance. Now I have got two EC2 servers with me. Right, you see that there are two servers. So I already logged into one server here. Now I have got another server. Let me logging into that server as well. I'll take the IP address. I'll go to PuTTY client. Then I will log into that server as well. Okay. So now what I do is I'll try to do some scenario, guys. So let me show you what is that I'm trying to do. Okay. So I have got two servers here. I have server one. Right. So I have the server two. So I think let me give the names as well. One is my test EC2 server. The other one is a web server, which is already working as a web server, right? Okay. So I have a one EC2 server, one EC2 instance, which is called as a test. Now I have one more EC2 instance, which is called as a web server. What I do is in the test EC2 instance, I'm going to create one username. Let's say I'll create a username called PR. In the web server, I'm going to create a user called, let's say, AR. I'm just creating some users in both systems, guys. The goal that I have here is the PR user who logged into this test server. This user would like to log into a AR user in the another server. I'm trying to show you how one user can log into another user of another server. You got me? Like as of now, we are logging into the EC2 instance using the PuTTY from my local laptop, right? The same way, how can you logging in from one Linux instance to another Linux instance, right? So I wanted to show you. I can use my same EC2-user only, but I wanted to show you with our own usernames to make it more clear. Okay. So let me create a users in both systems. So this is the system where I create user add AR, right? In another one, I'll create user add, let's say PR. Now tell me guys one thing, right? Let me come back here, okay? So when I'm trying to logging into the EC2 instance, right, the login can be done in two ways, correct? What are the two ways? One is the password based login and second one is the key based login. Agree with me? We are already familiar with this, right? If this is the password based login, then at the time of login to your EC2 instance, you need to supply the username and the password. If this is the key based login, you need to supply the username and the private key that you need to attach. That is how we are doing as of today from your PuTTY to your EC2 server. The same thing you need to follow when you are logging in from one EC2 instance to another EC2 instance or one Linux instance to another Linux instance. So out of these two, like the password based authentication, it's very clear, right? We set the password for the user. We enable the password authentication in the SSH, just connect it there. I don't need to worry about that, right? I'm worrying about the key based authentication now, right? Let's say the PR user from the test server would like to log into a AR user in the web server using the key based authentication, right? We are already familiar that whenever you are using the key based authentication, you would be required a SSH key pair, correct? How many of you are able to remember this concept, guys? We already touch base this concept, right? So you will be having the private key and the public keys. This is the combination keys that you should be using, right? Usually the private key should be there in the system where you are initiating the connection. In this case, right? In this case, if the PR user from the test server would like to log into a AR user in the web server, right? Right? The PR user is the initiation, right? That means this is the client in a way. So can I say that in this scenario, the test EC2 server is acting as a client? The web server EC2 instance is acting as a server. Are we good with this terminology, guys? I already talked about the meaning of client and the server. The client says that whoever is initiating the connection will become the client. Whoever is establishing the connection will become the server. Let's say if you are logging in from web server to a client server, sorry, web server to the test server, what will happen then? The web server is called as a client. The test server will become the server. Agree with me? That means a EC2 instance is always, right? The EC2 instance will work as a client or will work as a server. It depends how you are using it, correct? Right? So when your server is initiating a connection, it will become the client. If someone else is initiating a connection to you, it will become the server. That's how it keeps changing the terminologies. For now, let me go with this flow. I want to use this test as a client machine. The web server is a server and the PR user from this test client would like to log into AR user in the web server. To do this using the key based authentication, right? In the PR user side, I need to keep the private key. In the server side, I need to keep the public key. We already did it using your PuTTY to your EC2 server. PuTTY is acting as a client, EC2 is acting as a server. The EC2 server side, the public key, the PuTTY side, the private key. We already did it, but we are just doing it one more time between these two instances. Now, how do you get this public and private keys? It is possible to generate these keys yourself, guys. What I do now, right? I'll just go to this test server. This is where I created a username called PR, right? Now let me log into the PR user. If you want to logging into the PR user, yes, you can take a putty, give the IP address, give the username as PR, and give your password. You can log in like that, or else you can use su-pr. This is also possible. Who am I? You see, guys, I currently logged into the PR user. Su is the command which will allow you to switch to the user. Like from the root user, I just have switched to a PR user. So when you are running the su command to switch to any other user accounts within the same server, it will not ask for any password. Like it will not ask for the PR user password for switching to that particular account. The reason is the su command is being executed by the root, correct? Because the root is the super user, root has a complete privilege. So when you are running the su command from the root, it will not ask for any password. Directly you can logging into that user, right? And this is how it is. Just so simple, right? Now I logged in as PR user, right? All what you need to do is sshs hyphen keygen hyphen t rsa, right? This is the command which will be generating the public and the private key combination for you. The T flag is mean that the type, RSA is the type of the key that I wanted to create, and this is the command. When you hit enter, it is creating a public and private key pair for you, and these keys will be created in the user's home directory in the .shs folder, and the default private key name will be id underscore RSA. This is the default nature. All what you need to do is just hit enter. You just hit enter, 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 you will be done. So I got some keys are generated. Where do I see the keys? So you can go to this location. Currently I logged in as a PR user in my test EC2 server, and I have created a key pair, and I went to the .shs folder. Here I can see that there are two files. id underscore RSA is the private key. id underscore RSA dot pub is the public key. You got two keys. If I come back here, right, from the PR user, if I want to log into the another account or like to another server, the in the PR user side, I need a private key. The other server side, I need a public key, correct? All what I need to do is take this public key and copy this public key to the target servers in the target user's home directory. You can just cat this file just to see the public key and copy the public key like this, right? So I just copied the key here, right? If you are using putty, right, whenever you select the text, automatically that will be get copied. You don't need to do Control C and all, right? Now you go to the other server. You see here, this is the web server EC2 instance where I created a AR user, right? So let me switch to the AR user. Currently I am in the target user home directory. I don't have a .shs directory here. You can create a .shs directory. Go into .shs directory and create a file called authorized underscore keys. Authorized underscore keys is the standard file name that should be, and in that file I'm going to keep my public key and save the file. So when you are keeping the key over there, the public key that you are keeping there should be a little secured, right? So the authorized underscore keys, this file permission should be 600. Only the owner should have the permission, the group and others should not have the permission, right? And just do this. Not only the file, even if I look into the present working directory, which is .ssh, the .ssh also should have a permission only for the owner, not for others case. If the .ssh folder or the authorized underscore keys are having the permission for others, it will not work. So chmod 700 dot. Are you guys following me? Why I'm giving dot here? Of course, right? Currently I'm in the .ssh folder and that is the directory that I wanted to give the permission, and I'm just giving dot, which is the relative path concept. Now let me try this scenario. Okay, so what I do, I'll just come back to the PR user here. Who am I? Right? Currently I logged in as a PR user in my test EC2 server. I want to log into the web server SSH, right? Then specify the username. I want to log in as AR user @ then specify the IP address. You see, this is the IP address of my web server, right? The target server. Now you hit enter. The very first time when you are trying to connect it to the target server using the SSH, you will be getting this type of the warning. Now you are able to correlate this, right? Even when you are logging in from your putty also, you will be getting this acceptance screen. Same thing that I'm doing here as well, right? So this is the first time only it will be asked. When you say yes, accept it, right? Then, right? Okay, this is interesting. So I'm getting some permission denied error. We'll look into that. Okay, but you see this warning permanently added, right? This particular IP to the known host. The second time when you try to run this command, right, it will not ask for this acceptance again and again. Okay, so the reason is the very first time when you are trying to log in using SSH, when you say yes, I want to connect, that target IP information will be added to a known host file. I'll show you that known host file here. Now you see, sometime back I was having only these two files. Now I got one more new file got created. If I look into this known host file content, it has the details of your target server to which server you are trying to connect. So the second time when you try to connect, right, your system understands that maybe this is the same old server only, nothing new. So I don't need to ask this prompt. So let me try to connect. That's how it works. Let's say if you remove this known host file, now the known host file is not there. Now if you try to logging in, right, you see again it is asking for the confirmation. Why? It is not finding this IP in the known host. It is thinking that the first time that you are trying to connect, and it is asking for your acceptance for a security reasons. Once you say yes, again it will add that into a known host file. That's how this particular prompt will be coming in the first time when you are trying to log in. Yes, this is exactly like that you are accepting from your putty. When you are logging in from putty, the very first time you get a prompt for acceptance, right? Even there also, when you say yes, it will be added to the known host file in your laptop actually, because that time the putty is your client. Now quickly let me see the reason why it is not working. Right, I'm getting some permission denied error. So let me go back to the other server. Okay, this is the test server and this is the web server. All good. Let me verify the permissions one more time, guys. Okay, the .shs is having 700. It should be good. cd.ssh. Let me do ls-l 600. Looks this is good. Well, let me try one more scenario. Okay, so anyway, as of now, I set up the all the stuff. It is not working. That's fine. Let me proceed with some other scenario. We'll see what could be the reason. Now let's say in my web server, okay, in my web server, I have another user, right? I have a EC2 hyphen user, correct? I tried to logging into AR user. It didn't work for me, though I have done all the things. Let's say I have a EC2 hyphen user also available in this web server. Now the question is, if this PR user want to log into this EC2 hyphen user, now tell me guys, what will be the scenario? What I need to do now? The PR user from the test EC2 server want to log into EC2 hyphen user of my web server. Same thing, right? The private key that is there in the PR user account and the corresponding public key should be there in the target user's home directory. So if this user is trying to logging into the EC2 hyphen user in the /home/ EC2 hyphen user in the .shs, and there will be a file called authorized underscore keys, correct? So I need to copy the public key to this particular file, then this user can log into this EC2 hyphen user as well. That means the public and private key combination, whatever you are setting up, that is from a user to user, not from a server to server. Whichever the user that you want to log in, ensure that the combination is already set up. Let me try that, right? So here I logged in as a PR user, right? So let me do a cat id underscore rsa dot pub. I'll copy the public key. I'll go to the other server. I'll exit. Exit will take you back to the root. One more exit. Currently, I logged in as EC2 hyphen user. Yeah, I'll go to .ssh. Here the file is already there. Why this file is already there for EC2 hyphen user? Because it is set up by the AWS for you automatically. That is the reason you are able to log in from PuTTY by attaching the private key in your PuTTY side. Okay. Open the file. You see that the public key is already there here because you need to logging in from PuTTY. So keep this existing public key as it is and provide a one more key. That's it. Like that, we can give multiple public keys in the same file as well. Now save it. Now let me try to logging in. I'll come back to my PR user again. This time to this server, I wanted to log in as EC2 hyphen user. Now let me hit enter. It's logged in. You see that it is logged in successfully without asking a password. Of course, the whole purpose why I'm setting up the public and private keys there and there, it should not ask for the password. This is the key based authentication. This concept is called as a SSH password less authentication concept. We don't need any password, guys. The keys are set up already. For AR user, why it did not work? Somehow we missed some step. So the permissions are some other issue, but it should work. Let me try that too one more time. Let me go to root. Let me go to AR. Let me go to .ssh. You see, guys, the name of the file is having some typo. Did you ever observe? Authorized, right? The file name is, there is a mistake here. That's why it is not working. The file name should be authorized underscore keys. Okay. Let me rename the file. To rename the file, the command is mv, the source name and the destination name. Now you see the name AUTHO. It was some typo there. Now the file name got corrected. Now let me come back and try to log in. Here I just logged into this server as EC2 user, right? If you do exit, you will come back to your previous server. The connection is closer to that server and you back to your test server again. Now let me try to logging into the AR user. Now it is working. Are we good with this? Why the name should be authorized underscore keys only? The reason is if you go to etc ssh sssd underscore config file, because that is the configuration where the SSH is looking for, right? In this configuration, right, the name is set like this. You see, hey, this is the file that you need to look for the keys. So the file name should be like this, or else it will not work. Like that. So from which user you wanted to set a passwordless authentication to which other user, we just need to control this public and private key match there and there, and it should be working. Perfect. So that's the story about the networking and the passwordless authentication. And whatever I did it here, it will be this is the concept of Linux, right? No matter your Linux server is the AWS or Azure or a on-premises, no matter, it is gonna be same, right? So almost any command that I'm running in the Linux server side, that is the Linux concept, and it is same for everywhere. No matter your infrastructure is come from AWS or Azure or on-premises, doesn't matter. Any command that you are running on the OS level, right? It will be the same because at the end of the day, Linux OS is same, right? That's how it works. Right? So I see a question there as well, right? How many spaces that I need to give when I'm adding the second key? It doesn't matter. You can give one space or two spaces, doesn't matter. It should work. Good. Now coming back to the web server again, guys, where I'm done with my some of the networking commands and some SHS stuff as well, which are the basics, which I'm going to use in upcoming lectures again. Coming back to my web server, and this is the website. Where is the website? www.redshopper.com, right? So this is the web app that is currently running from my EC2 server, and we are already familiar that all the images, all the content that you see here, everything is coming from my EC2 server. That we proved it, right? Good. Now let me come back to one small scenario, guys.
Praveen, I have a question before you move on. Can I?
Yes, please.
See, in clustering system, right? So sometimes same user should access to the multiple servers. Okay, in that case also, like we need to copy the public keys into the different servers.
Thank you. So the point number one, I kept you on mute. The second point is your voice is really cracky, not even now, even the previous sessions as well. So just look at once. And answering to your question, yes, right? From your server, if you wanted to logging into 100 servers, let me put it, yes, the public key has to be copied in all the 100 servers to all the users who wherever you wanted to log in, right? That's how it works. But yeah, we'll handle that in a better way in our upcoming lectures using automation. Right? So let's say I have the web server, right? In my web server, if I look at, right, the files, when I say the data, right, I meant to say data. So what is it mean by the data terminology? Anyone give a clue for me, right? Whenever I say data, it is a file that is where you are keeping some content, correct? Right? It could be a /etc/password. It could be /etc/shadow. It could be /etc/profile. Agree with me, guys? Can I call out that all these files are having some data? Obviously, right? Right? When I said data, some content is in a file that is called as a data, right? And I'm just referencing some of the files, whichever the files that we are already familiar with, like /etc/shs/sssd_config, right? Let's say /etc/http/conf/httpd_httpd.conf, correct? These are the some of the files that we have seen, like /usr/bin/ls, the commands that we are running in, correct? Also, the other side, I can say that /var/www/html, in this folder, whatever the code, images, videos, text, like pretty much whatever the data that you wanted to show to your users, right? All the data is currently in this location, correct? So that is also a data, right? And in this location, I have some files, and inside the file, some text is there, right? So what I'm trying to do here is, whatever the data that is currently there in my web server, I'm going to separate the data in a way that some data is related to your operating system and application maintenance. The some data is related to your client data, or I would say business data. Agree with me? Maybe I'll put it here. Right? So in this case, the data that you are keeping in the var www.html, right? This data is actually the client data. What does it mean by the client data? The data that you are actually using for your business purpose, right? In our case, whatever the data that you see in this website, right? This is all the data that I'm referring it as a client data or the business data. But if I look into the data like etc password file, etc shadow file, and other files, do you think this is the business related data? or the client data? No, right? This is the operating system related information, operating system related data, or at least some of the configuration files that would be required for your application to run. You see, right? These files are actually the configuration files that are needed for your application to run, but those are not the actual data that is coming in your website, right? So sometimes the client data, business data, we can also use the terminology called user data also. All gives them similar meaning. The reason why I'm trying to separate the data, which is OS level, which is client level, is whenever there is a volume attached to my web server. For this EC2 server, there will be one hard drive attached, right? One hard disk is attached. I don't want the operating system data and my client data both sitting in the single hard drive. Getting me what I'm trying to, right? So whenever your server is attached with one hard drive, right, the whole data I don't want to be in a single hard drive. The expectation that I have here is at least I wanted to segregate this. All the operating system related data should be in one hard drive. All the client data which I'm using for my business purpose should be in a different hardware, that is, sorry, different hard disk. That is what I'm trying to set up now. As of today, the OS data and the client data or the website related data, everything is in one single hard drive, guys, which is not recommended. So let me separate them out. To separate them out, right? So I need to attach one more hard drive, and I need to do some configuration to keep my client related data in a separate hard drive. Whenever you have launched a EC2 instance, right? That time by default AWS is providing you one single hard drive. You see this storage section? You will be getting one hard drive with 8 GB capacity by default. So as of today, this 8 GB hard drive is being used for my OS data purpose as well as my website related data as well. But I don't want it like this, right? So that is where I need to work on adding a additional hard drives to my EC2 server and configure them for a different purpose. The hard drive is the general terminology. When it comes to the AWS, we need to call it as a volume. Volume, hard drive, both are same. Volume is the AWS terminology. Usually, when you are launching the EC2 instance, the AWS is giving you one volume of 8 GB capacity, which is called as a root volume. The root volume is used to store the operating system related data, not to store your business data. If you want, you can, but that is not a good idea, right? So always use the root volume to store the OS related data only, not your business data. So go and launch a EC2 instance with this default configuration, which is just for OS purpose. If you want to keep your business data, you need to create a additional volumes, guys. That is where now I'm switching my gear to talk about the EBS volume concept in the AWS. The volumes are called as a EBS volumes in the AWS. EBS in the sense elastic block store volumes. So as I said some time back, whenever you have launched a EC2 instance which is created in the specific availability zone, by default one root EBS volume will be created and attached to your server, that is for to store your OS related data. Good. Now you can create a additional EBS volumes like this. Create an additional EBS volume, attach this volume to the server, and use this additional EBS volume to store your business related data, like your website data, images, videos, content, something like this. The additional EBS volume that you are creating cannot be attached to two EC2 instances at the same time. Obviously, right? In general, think of like this. You have a laptop. It has already one hard drive in your laptop. Always you can attach one external USB hard drive to your laptop, right? Those externally attached hard drives cannot be attached to two laptops at the same time, right? It doesn't work. So it cannot be attached to two instances at the same time. And you can create as many number of additional volumes if you want to, right? We can add multiple volumes and add it there. All will work. So now we are trying to learn what is EBS volume, how to create, how to attach, how to use this volume to store our business related data. I'm giving more theory probably because every time when we get into a new topic, yes, that much knowledge is needed, guys. That's the reason. When you are creating a volume, of course, creating a volume in the sense what? I just go and inform to AWS, hey AWS, I need one volume. AWS will create it in their data center and they will give it to you, right? The EBS volumes are different types actually. Here are some of the types that you see. General purpose, provisioned, throughput optimized, cold HDD, something like this. You don't need to worry about all these types, why these are. Just understand, like if you go to a store to purchase one pen drive or one hard drive, there will be multiple options for you, right? The quality, performance, size, right? And the vendor, right? The technology, the 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 SAS hard drive, SSD hard drive, magnetic hard drives, right? HDD, if someone know this in olden days how it was, big hard drives. So this is just a technology differences. So definitely, as and when you choose the type of the volume that you want to, the billing will be differentiated, right? The general purpose SSD is the general volume that we usually use in real time as well, which is the optimal cost. Provisioned IOPS is like no, this is a bit more costlier because the performance will be good, something like this. Okay, so every volume that you take on, whichever the volume that you choose, right? Every volume will have some characteristics. In the sense, any volume that you take from AWS, any EBS volume that you take from AWS, which is a persistent volume, that means the data that you are storing in the volume will not be lost. Though your server is shut down, server is restarted, server is terminated, still your data is safe in your volume. That is called as a persistent volume. 99.999% availability in the sense, AWS will tell that, hey, because at the end of the day, when it is a volume in the data center, this is just a hard drive, right? Somewhere, and the hardware may go bad, hardware may fail, something happen, right? AWS says 99.999% availability in the sense. So I guarantee that your volume will be always be available without having any issues. Though something happen in the backend, they know what needs to be done for us. So automatically replicated within its availability zone in the sense, like let's say, if I ask AWS that, hey, can you give me a 10 GB volume? What AWS do? AWS will give you a 10 GB volume. You use it for storing your 10 GB data. In the backend, AWS will actually create two 10 GB volumes, 2 or 3. right, in the same availability zone. And they will be replicating your data into multiple other volumes as well. That is how they maintain the availability. If one hard drive is crashed for any hardware issue, you are able to access your data from other hardware. So that's how the AWS take care of in the backend. I'll not show the complete lab practice today itself, guys, but I just show you one small thing. So in the EC2, in the left side navigation, if you go to Elastic Block Store section, this is where you can see the volume tab. Currently, you can see that there are two volumes that are appearing in the list because I have two EC2 instances. Each EC2 instance has its own volume, which is the root volume at this time. To request for additional volume, you just need to go to the create a volume tab and fill up the form. The type of the volume, you choose it from the list, what type of volume that you want to. As I said, the type will decide the performance, and obviously the billing differences will be there, right? So select the type which you wanted to, select the size, how much size of the volume that you wanted to, right? And select the availability zone, in which availability zone your volume has to be created. Like AWS has to get a hard drive from which zone, that you can select it from here. The volume that you are getting in, right? This volume you want to use for which EC2 server, because I need to attach this to my server, right? So your EC2 server is in which availability zone, the volume must be created in the same zone. Here, let's say I want to use the volume for this web server. This web server is currently created in the US East 1B availability zone. So I need to create a volume in the 1B zone only. Then only I can use the volume in the server, or else no. If the server is in 1B zone, volume is in 1A zone, no, you can't use it. What could be the reason, guys, why I can't use it? It actually two different data centers, right? 1B is a different data center, 1A is a different data center. Server is in one data center, the hard drive is in another data center. That doesn't work, right? So ensure that your volume and the server both are in the same zone. So check the zone of your server, then at the time of creating a volume, you select the same zone from this list and just come down and click on create a volume. That is how your volume will be get created. You see here 20 GB volume is created now. This volume now I need to give to my web server and go to the web server, do some commands, and then start using this volume to store your business data. I'll talk about this, how to use this volume, how to store the data there, right? All these things in tomorrow lecture. For now, I just wanted to give you some introductory about the EBS volumes. Any questions so far? One last thing here, the volume that you are taking on, the volume should not go beyond 30 GB size, because the free tier limitation is 30 GB. If you take more than 30 GB, it will be billable, guys. If you go to free tier documentation and read, you will know that. So anyway, we are not going to store any data, right? Just take 5 GB, 4 GB, something like this. Don't take a bigger volume. We need to pay for that, right? So for now, I don't need this volume. Just select the volume, action, delete a volume. So tomorrow I'll show you how to create and how to use it, all these different exercises for this. So any questions, do let me know, or else we are good for today. We'll talk about the EBS volume in tomorrow. Right, answering to a question there, if a user forgot the password, how to get it? You can't get it. You ask the other user, whoever has a root access on the server, and they will be resetting a password for you. Now let me come back to my server one more time. As I see a question there that, right, can I set a password for root? Why not? PASSWD root. Root is also a user, right? And set a password for root. It should work, right? The problem is the root is the super user. It is not advisable to set a password for root and log in as a root directly. Why? If you enable login to the root directly, what is the case if your password gets compromised? In the sense, somehow I know your password. What I do? I will log in as a root and I'll do something. So it's not advisable to enable the root logins directly, but the question is, if can be, yes it is. Hence the reason, if you look into etc sss sssd underscore config file, I'm just searching, okay? Yeah, if you see here, a permit root login prohibit, that means what? By default, the root logins are disabled. If you really want the root login to be enabled, you come to this line and remove this comment. Currently it is commented, right? Remove the comment and say that permit root login, you change this to yes, then it should work. But it's not recommended when it comes to the real time, because no one will log into root as a directly. Always you go as an ordinary user, then you switch to the root, all these things will happen. In the real time, usually we will be working on multiple servers, guys. Like we'll be having some 100 servers. Sometimes from one server you may need to go to another server. In that situation, you need a password-less authentication is set up. It's very easy for me to go to whichever the server that you wanted to, right? Rather keep on giving the password. So that's how it will be useful to have the passwordless authentication with all the servers. So we can easily switch to whichever the server that you like it. Basically, that is more useful in the automation, which we are going to discuss in the upcoming lectures.
So basically, when we create this SSH hyphen keygen, then two keys will be there, public key, private key. Then we will copy the public key into the another server.
Yes.
Then we will write SU at the rate SSH at the rate uska IP.
Yes, the target IP.
Okay. This is only the in passwordless SSH.
Yes.
The SSH at the rate public IP or private IP, sir?
Doesn't matter. Anything should work for now, but I'll talk about what is public, what is private IP differences in upcoming lectures. For now, it doesn't matter. You can use any one. It should work.
Okay. And this keys will be stored in authorized keys. folder.
Yes. Right, and answering to the question, right, to Ravi, yes, sshs hyphen copy hyphen id, that command also can be used, but that command also doing the same thing. Whatever I did, that command will do for you. Like I did it manually copying from there to here. If you use that command, it will actually copying the key and setting the permissions for you. That's it. Both are same in a way, right? That is just a command to take care of. But yeah, we can do that. Right, and just to give you a hint, as of now I'm using the Apache web server to run my websites, right? I'm using the Apache web server and I'm showing that this is how we are accessing the website. Believe me, we will not use this Apache web server in a real time. But why did I spend some time? This is the introduction to get started in understanding what is website, how the websites will be running, how the web server will be installed and configured, which is the beginning and very basics that everyone should know. Right, the Apache web server that I'm using here will be supportive only for a websites that are developed in a kind of a HTML. If your website code is written in Java, PHP, .NET, let's say, then your Apache web server software will not work. Currently, I kept some code right in this location into where www HTML location, right? So if your code is in HTML, then only it will work. If it is in Java or somewhere, some other programming languages, it will not work. That's the reason Apache web server will not use much, because in the real time we mostly use the programming languages like Java other. So for that there are few other web servers are there. So we'll see all of them one by one in upcoming, guys. Well, so I think I'll talk about what is region specific, what is not region specific in a particularly in upcoming lectures, right? But for now, yes, to answer you, yes, Route 53 is the global resource, sorry, global service. But what is global, what is region specific, I'll definitely talk again in coming series. Well, team, that's the story for today, and don't worry about the Active Directory, guys. Again, when the questions are coming in, right, whoever doesn't know what is this question, you don't worry, just ignore. But since I need to answer the question I'm doing, right, so don't worry about Active Directory at this time, right? That is something related to the SSO concept, right? For now, yes, we are not using any Active Directories even in the real time to logging into the EC2 instances at least. All right, team. So if any other questions, do let me know, or else we are good.
Just for Windows instances, what to do, Rajesh?
First thing, like we are not touching a Windows systems throughout our lectures. The second point, we will not use the Windows in the real time as well when we are working as a DevOps engineer to deal with our Java-based web applications. So we don't need to worry about dealing with Windows. The
And
DevOps
volumes,
engineer,
what are
sorry, the DevOps engineer who is using the Windows systems, right? There will be a scenario if your applications are built on a .NET program, right, or C# program. In that scenario, some Windows systems will be used, or else no. So we are not touching any .NET or Windows related in our course, so we are not doing that. Adding to that now, The Active Directory is a concept that is widely used on the Windows systems. We will not use that in the Linux systems, even in the real time.
Okay. Just asking, for Windows also volumes, connections and all will be same, na? Just like GP2 what you shown here.
Everything is same. Yeah, like create a EC2 instance of type Windows and create a volume, attach it. It gonna be the same until unless, like from the AWS side, it will be always same, right? Once you logging into the instance, then the changes will come. Like once I log into the Linux EC2 server, then you need to know the Linux commands, right? Same way, once you log into the Windows, then your Windows skill will come into the picture to do a operating system configuration. The AWS side of world, pretty much everything is same.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Sir, I am new for this class, sir. This is my first class, and I am from Tamil Nadu, sir. Uh,
Okay.
but how I watch a previous classes, sir?
Mhm. So just please contact the admin to get more details on this case. So you should get the recording videos and go back in time and look through all the recording videos, complete it as soon as possible. Then only the running sessions will be understandable.
Okay, sir. Sir, actually, I am Triple E department. I don't know any programming language, and I don't know any IT related knowledge. If I can watch your series, I can understand everything, sir.
Mhm. So go through the videos, and if you don't understand, just revert back to us.
Okay.
Right?
It's a scratch, no, sir.
Sorry.
If anything basic thing I need to know or what, I don't know, sir. Anything need to know basic things to continue this course or else.
Mhm. Just go to my previous recording videos. Start from the day one, video number one. You just go through that. You get everything, whatever you needed. You don't need to worry about any other things. Correct me, guys,
Okay.
if my statement is true from the chart. Whoever is following my sessions from the day one, correct? No. So I think I started with the very basic. We should be able to get it right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, team, then catch up tomorrow.